Hi, everybody. Welcome today to a fun Ask Rawan Anything. Today, we're going to focus, Rawan and me together, on how and in what way a live review of your CV, resume, and your cover letter for a specific job posting is done, and the things that you'll learn watching us do one of our volunteers for it. So, Rawan, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll follow you.
All right, thanks, Sue, and hi, everybody. I hope you're well. Apologies, we had a little technical glitch, but I hope you're still following us. My name is Rawan. You probably are already following me on LinkedIn. I post entry-level jobs, fellowships, and internships for youth. And Sue and I have been doing a series of videos for young professionals on various topics. Today, we will be doing a live review of a CV and a cover letter. So I hope you enjoy it. And if you have more ideas for future lives, you can let us know in the comments.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sue Griffey. I'm known as Sue Mentors in the virtual world. I have a global mentoring practice working with a lot of you that I've already come to know all over the world. And the most important thing, I'm the mentor with Pom Poms. I celebrate, and today I'm celebrating Dr. Feliz, who you'll hear about in a minute. Today, you're going to see us review a cover letter and a resume. The first thing what you'll see is I will do a review of the job posting, showing you how to think about it, some of the things I think are important to emphasize. Then Rawan will do the CV review. And for each of these sections, CV and cover letter, we'll have summary slides that give some quick wins and some 20-minute changes. After Rawan finishes with the CV, I will do the cover letter review. And if we are coordinated, we hope that Dr. Feliz will be able to join us. But we're really pleased that she wanted to work with us on this. So, Rawan, I will start with Dr. Feliz Akhtan Clark. This is what you'll see. She's a learning and development manager, and this is what she's aiming for. She sent us a job description, a job posting for a learning and development manager, very good, closely aligned, at an organization called Cohn Resnick. And what you'll see in these slides are things that are done in three colors. The purple is something I know she matches, having reviewed her resume. The purple overlaid with orange is just saying, here's something important. And sometimes you may see just the orange by itself, which is an alert that something either you don't have if I'm viewing a job posting Feliz may not have, or it may be that it's important enough to discuss separately. In this case, it's a remote job, and they make a point right at the beginning of the job posting when they describe themselves to say that they will work in various ways together with the person that they want to hire. Here's what you'll see in the right-hand side of the page. This is where Sue has to put on her reading glasses, so you get to see my red reading glasses. It's got various locations. The important thing is this person is joining a team that's under people and culture. So there's a much larger team that probably includes HR and talent acquisition functions. And they're also talking about, even though it's a remote job, they do have hybrid opportunities, and they do bring you in, whether you're totally remote. They do bring people together when they at certain times during the year. The orange down at the bottom I thought was important because it really talks about this job equipping the professionals with premier learning opportunities. So this is a company that wants to know you're on at least the best practices for learning and development, but also for the cutting edge. So they want innovation, I believe. And now you'll see on the right, you report right up to a director level position. That's good news. But they talk about this being in government and public sector development programs, which I'm just going to point out may be a little different from private sector programs. So if you have government experience or or other public sector type of experience that may be helpful to you. And this, I just mentioned innovations. They want innovative in learnings, but learning in a lot of different ways. They want best in class training, but they don't just want one kind of training. You'll see this when we go along. Here's everything you're supposed to do. Felice has really everything that's needed for the job. What I wanted to point out, which happens over and over again and gives you a chance to talk about where you've done it in the very first purple, multiple complex projects. So be aware of that when you can talk about how you've handled complexity, multiple projects at a time, large projects, different kinds of customers. In the next paragraph called Adult Learning Design, this is the principles of it, and they talk about learning modalities, virtual, in person, and on demand settings. So, opportunities for you to stress the breadth of that. Going down next to the purple under critical thinking, they want you to have evidence of conducting formal and informal assessments. Next one down is group facilitation experience. There's a lot they want, but these are things I haven't necessarily seen called out in specific L&D jobs, and I do see L&D as learning and development jobs. And at the bottom is proof or ability to implement evaluation methodologies, which means efficiencies, getting more people trained who can do more on the job. And finally, we end with everything that she already has, no problem. The orange is not that you don't have demonstrated ability to work effectively with individuals at director and partner level. You may have it there, it's not specifically said in your resume, but this is saying, can you work with people who are more senior and get them motivated and moved along on change management? So I'm going to turn it. Oh, and one more thing, they're talking about a diverse workplace. I've seen this more and more in job postings where people say, even if you don't match 100% of everything we want, please apply because we want a range of applicants. We know that different people bring different kinds of strengths. And now it's on to Rawan. Rawan, this starts with the big overview I sent you a note about.
All right, so thank you so much. So Felice has a great CV, I would say. Um, there isn't much work. I would say this is a great CV. She's already like 80% there. We're really, really nitpicking there to take her to, the next level, but she already has a lot of experience. Her academic background aligns with her professional experience, which is great. She has done tertiary education, which is amazing. She's doing an MBA and she has a PhD, which is, a candidate that's really above and beyond already. The comments on this CV are not to discourage you to say that, oh, if this is not a good CV, then what is mine? That's not the purpose at all, but she submitted her CV for feedback. So the purpose is just to provide her with some comments to really make sure she's at the top of the pile, not just in the pile of a short list that's going to go for interviews or technical tests. So, Felice's CV is 3 pages long. Um, Something that she can do really, really quickly to improve her CV, and maybe you've noticed that already, is that she needs a bit more white space or a bit more breathing space for somebody who's looking at the document who's already maybe seen 50 or 60 CVs that day, just for their eyes to be able to, breathe and relax while looking at the document. So right now the margins are a bit too narrow. So that's something she can do really, really quickly just to make sure that um, the document gets enough attention and it gets the justice it deserves. You don't want somebody to have like eye fatigue the second they look at your document. So that's like a very easy win. Another easy win that she can do is she's already said that she's a learning and talent development. Um, she can define that a bit more. Is she a consultant? Is she looking for managerial roles? Is she looking for remote jobs? She can specify a bit more. Learning and development is also very wide. So if I was an employer and I'm looking for somebody in like a really niche area, I would specify my focus area as well. Like Are you really known within your community of L&D for succession planning? Are you known for upskilling? Are you known for creating courses for onboarding or team building? Whatever it is, I would really bring that out just so that you're also memorable. It, it's one thing to have experience, it's another thing to be memorable so that even if you're not selected for this role, you're memorable for future consultancies or trainings or opportunities and so forth. Um, so the second win, I would say, also easy win, is to add like a paragraph, a mini story about your CV in that place where it says core competencies. I would remove the competencies, and they should be implied within your examples, so you don't need to explicitly state them the way they're stated. So you can project the quick wins, the next text box.
There you go.
All right. All right. So we said the reformatting. You can also add the degrees after your name, Felice. So you have a PhD, you're doing an MBA. You haven't stated the dates, if I can remember correctly. Or the dates are not very clear. It's not clear if you did your PhD and you're doing your MBA or you're done with both. So I would say that at least for the titles that you finished or the titles that are ongoing, you can put these next to your name. So you can write Dr. Feliz or you can write PhD, MBA. That automatically captures the recruiter's attention because it shows that you have credibility. It shows that you have the right qualifications. They don't need to scroll 3 pages down to know that you have a PhD or an MBA. You worked so hard for that, so this needs to shine at the beginning of your CV. I would remove open to relocation, and I would also remove U.S. citizen. Um, I don't think that's really relevant. A lot of people remove personal information from their CVs, especially that you're already applying for a role that's more or less remote, or this is a role that can more or less be done remotely. I would remove that. That's something that you can negotiate at a later stage of a recruitment with HR if there's a relocation allowance or for example if you're willing to move or you can commute 2 days a week. That's an internal discussion. I don't think the place for it is that prime real estate space at the beginning. The last quick win that you can do is add month to the length of the employment years. Years is a bit tricky because if you say 2023 to 2024, maybe you worked 2 years, maybe you did 9 months, um, maybe you worked all of 2023, all of 2024, or you did a year and a half or 11 months. So, I mean, if you've worked these months, I would say also account for them and write like January 2022 until January 2024, whatever it is, just so that it's easier for the employer or the system if you're using an online portal to calculate the month of experience that you have in a certain field. So these are things that you can do relatively quickly, very quick wins. We can move to the not so quick wins. Again, this is complete for me. This is like really going the extra mile. You already have an amazing CV. Your LinkedIn profile also looks very good. It's aligned with the CV that you've sent. It gives like a very confident front facing image. So I really liked your LinkedIn profile as well. So 20-minute changes, I would say even if it takes you longer than 20 minutes, I would take the time, no matter how much it takes to make these adjustments. I would shorten this to 2 pages. Right now, it's about 2 pages and a half. Most people will not read that far, so you shouldn't have such important information like your MBA and your PhD on page 3. If somebody prints the first 2 pages, then that's gone, you know? So make the extra effort to remove some things that are not so necessary, and then you can make that CV or resume 2 pages. Another way you can do this is through creating a visual hierarchy. So current roles or more recent roles get more space in your CV and older roles get less space. So by doing that, let's say your current role has 5 points and then the next one has four, three, two, one, etc. Then you will be able to fit the all the information you have on 2 pages, especially if you're tailoring this to every job, you're only really focusing on the key things. Um, The quantitative results, you've done that really well for some bullet points. I'm sure Sue will send you back the document. And for some others, you haven't. So be consistent throughout. So throughout the document, you can use a formula, like use an action verb and a metric and a time frame. For example, attracted 5,000 new learners through an online course in 2024. Just try to be consistent so that whoever is reading it as well feels like there's a structure. Maybe they may not realize exactly why they feel that way, but if you have a structure, action verb, metric, time frame, wherever you can, of course, it's not always possible to put a time frame, but whenever you can, if you have a structure and you stick with it throughout, it shows that you're consistent, it shows you're diligent, it shows that you have good organizational skills. Organization, sorry. Um the last thing I would say that it's not I have an online portfolio of the work that you've been doing in L&D. I would create such a profile. So for all the consulting work that you've done, I think you were the CEO or you had your own company at one point where you were doing career coaching. So for all the courses that you've created, all the learners that you've registered, if you have an online portfolio or a website or a YouTube page, or you can create such a visual interactive profile, especially that the work that you're doing is very interactive. It's very, it has a potential to be very visual to attract and retain clients and really engage them to learn something. So I would say if you don't already have such a platform, you can have it in your CV the way artists and architects have I even forgot the platform they use. They have like um, if I remember it, I'll type it for you in the chat. But wherever you choose to house this, it's up to you. But I would say it's really worthwhile. So these were the short term and the long term wins. Sue will go over your CV, and then if you have any questions, you can feel free to let us know or connect on LinkedIn. Thank you, Felice, and thank you, Sue.
Thanks, Rawan. That was great, really helpful. And so now I'm going to look at the cover letter that Felice sent. Just a comment, the cover letter makes reference to slightly different requirements and organization. She sent me a job posting for Cohn Resnick, and this was the cover letter is addressing some work at SAP. So we'll look at it from there. As we did with the CV, this is the full page view. Now, she may have addressed this as a letter. The first thing that I can see right at the top is it just goes right into Dear Hiring Manager. Always remember, even if you email it and it's in the email subject line, in the subject of the email, make sure that you put in the complete text the requisition number, if there is one, the actual title, the organization, so that they know that you're writing to them. It would be really useful for you to look at it that way. So now I'm going to show you that things that focus, as Rawan was also talking about, on how to use specific results, the examples of what they're looking for and what now I want to make sure you do. So the things that are in pinkish over on the left are things I went through in the job posting. On the right is the cover letter. In the paragraph with the yellow on it, this is an introductory paragraph. It's too generic. Remember to give context. When you talk about your many years in learning and development, you said you were this, you were this, you were this. You could use things, for example, and this leads us to the first area of your 12 years. You could talk about the fact that you've worked in a state organization. You worked in Florida State, so you know state government, for example, that's public sector, which is what they wanted. And also you could talk about the private consulting groups you've worked with, again, so that you talk about a range of organizations you know about the learning and development. You could even weave a story about bringing bringing along best practices throughout your career, moving from a state government into a consulting organization. Those are ways you want to make your story interesting. The second yellow highlight is now on the qualifications. As I said, this is a different job posting from what the cover letter talks about. The job posting we had was 5 years of experience. But whether or not it's 5 years, 12 years, or whatever it is, you want to repeat it, which she did for 14 years, working as this and this. Now, don't waste space telling them things that aren't helpful. Take your space to address the areas of learning, development, and training. So instead of giving all the different job titles, I might weave the story more on, I have years of implementing training, also managing a group of trainers, and then leading training efforts, so that you weave together your leadership story. I forgot to start with a formatting comment. And I think I often start with formatting just because it makes sense once you see it. In this case, you can see the left-hand column is all about what the org wants. And because you split the columns equally, we have a lot of white space, and the stuff you're trying to put in, not the stuff, your information, which is valuable, is all cramped. So you could do 1/3, 2/3, and not give them so much space, but focus on what it is you bring. I might retitle qualifications to experience. Everywhere you can, emphasize the experience, not qualifications sometimes is considered things like degrees and certifications. All right, I'm going down to different areas to show you. In this case, in 2 places, they wanted you to have a variety of modes of delivery, in-person, virtual, and on demand. But they also, in the next to last bullet, I had highlighted group facilitation experience, because that isn't necessarily called out when you are looking at L&D, learning and development, and training experienced people. And they ask for some of that same thing there, asynchronous learning, all of that. You have some of that in the yellow in the second box of what you wrote, but the slight orange farther down is, here's a way you can weave together the story of what you know about the ways that you've done in person and instructor-led, as well as the different modes. I know I'm cutting the slices in different ways. I'm slicing through the mode of delivery, then I'm slicing through the kind of training it actually was, the instructor-led training. But it's important to respond to what they're asking for, because they want innovations and best practices. We're going back now to, again, the modes of training. So you may want to begin to think about, in the yellow, putting in things they're asking for. They asked you for in-service. You mentioned e-learning, you mentioned instructor-led, and I believe you had pre-service there. I think I meant pre-service because I know you mentioned in-service. So anything that they mention in their words, use their words for it. So you can replicate or remind them, oh, she read our job posting and she's perfect for what we need. When you talk about you've done trainings, try to give a number. It's very easy to say, I've done 3 in-service courses at a state-based training program. So think about how you can signal the depth of your experience. And then finally, this one is really important because many learning and delivery professionals aren't as comfortable with the evaluation. You're comfortable with the evaluation of training and learning, but not necessarily with the effectiveness of it. So I looked through your CV. I tried to find where you may have done something, even in your graduate assistant work. It wasn't called out, but if you've done it, this is your opportunity to talk about ways that you evaluate effectiveness is, are they able in service or pre-service to do something in the job setting? Is there some impact on the organization? That would be a real nice thing for us to get. And as an evaluator, we don't always get those. So quick changes. Table columns give more space to you. This is your chance to weave together a story that isn't in reverse chron order. Add your results to your intro paragraph. So not just I'm great, I'm great, I'm great. And I don't mean that the way it sounds, but that's the way. What you want to do is tell them, I'm great because. So you want to show them, don't tell them, I have effectively worked in this and delivered this training. Make sure you put the context in for the requirements they're asking about. For example, I was talking to you about in-service and pre-service training. Use their words. They say asynchronous and synchronous, use their words. They also said virtual and in person. So there was a lot to restate the context there. And I just mentioned to you, use numbers when you can. You can't always use numbers, but you could say, for example, I have frequently delivered training more than X times a year for 1 month training courses. That just gives them a sense of the volume of training experience you've had. 20-minute changes are mentioning the examples from the job posting, but going on in a way that gives them the integrated story. And I wrote this as a 20-minute change because some of the individual changes you could do right away, but pulling together a more cohesive story so that you address what they're looking for. In the case of you, what you did with your table, there were modes of training in 2 different places. So what did you want to emphasize in which particular one would be something that's going to take you a little longer. Give context when you can, even if they haven't asked for it. They didn't ask for it, but they told you that the practice setting included government and public sector. And you could have made much more, for example, in your intro paragraph about working for the state government in Tallahassee, I believe it was. And I just mentioned how to evaluate effectiveness. Any place that you've done it, if you participated on a team of evaluations where you routinely take the training beyond, did you like the training you were in, and how much did you learn with a pre and post test? So that is winding us up with, we've given you a review. We started with the job posting. Then we looked at the CV and where it matches. And then we looked at the cover letter and where you could emphasize again the things that you bring. Rawan, I'd love for you to do a summary of what made you want to address this topic today, because you came to me and said, it's time for us to do this today.
So maybe the reason was I get a lot of requests. I'm sure you do too, Sue, like through my inbox and through email to review CVs, to review cover letters. But a lot of the issues are very common. But a lot of the mistakes I spot are very common amongst the CVs in different variations, of course. So I thought maybe if we do this publicly and if somebody volunteers to have their CV seen by others, people will feel more connected. They'll feel like, okay, people are struggling through the same thing, or other people also have similar mistakes. They'll feel more, seen. They'll feel more like they're going through the same things, and also so that other people watching could also spot these mistakes in their CVs and their cover letters and adjust them as well, even if you don't have somebody reviewing it for free, or if you're using paid services. If you spot any of those mistakes in your own documents, of course, adjust them. Don't wait until you notice a pattern of not getting shortlisted for jobs or not getting called back for interviews. So if you spot these things, also um, make the adjustments without being told.
Great. And for those of you who are with us live, thank you for finding us, since we had a glitch at the beginning and had to send you a different link. This will be available on YouTube so that you'll be able to watch it and stop and start it for anybody who wants to think, how do I match what Sue and Rawan were talking about with the job posting? How do I match what Rawan was emphasizing with the CV and Sue the cover letter? And we welcome comments from you because we know that some of what we presented may not apply to you in terms of the kind of resume or cover letter that your particular work area would expect. For example, IT people tend to keep their resumes to one page and do a lot more discussing of the kinds of IT related tools and systems they work in. So don't be afraid to also say this doesn't apply to me, but there are general concepts that we presented today that you will see over and over again. And as Rawan said, she and I see these differences. They're not necessarily mistakes because we weren't taught this to do this in school. And right now, everybody's got information out there about how to do things. Rawan and I operate from the point of view of what is it the hiring managers and the HR people are looking for that gets you telling your story in a way they can judge your experience and evidence. So Rawan, I'll leave you to close our meeting.
Okay, thanks, Sue, and thank you to everybody that has joined us today. Um, I've put a link in the chat. You'll be able to see it in the comments and on Sue's page as well after the end of the call of how to write achievements in a resume. Um, this is a link from Teal, also one of the prominent career pages. So you can go through that as well, and it could help you in framing your achievements. We hope you enjoyed the live today and have a lovely weekend ahead. If you have any ideas for future lives, you can always let us know so that we can make sure that we present things that you would like to listen to. Thank you and have a lovely Saturday. Bye.